Welcome, everyone, to Political Fixer Live. I'm your host, Shauna Presley Vircher, and it's going to be a good show this evening. So, if you're new to Political Fixer Live, settle in. We've got a lot to cover, and you can get involved in the conversation as well. Right now, you can watch us live on TikTok at Political Fixer, or you can hop over to our YouTube channel at Political Fixer. And after the show is done, you can go grab the clips, run it at double speed, catch the stuff you missed or you had to step away from, and you can go to our YouTube channel at Political Fixer and get the entire episode. All right. So many things to discuss. It was hard to choose the topics for tonight, but we actually have some pretty fun things to talk about. Some crazy things to talk about as well, but some fun things, some lifestyle things, a lot happening in the news. So here's our top stories we're going to be covering. At the top of the hour, we're going to be discussing what is going on in New Jersey. I know could be a number of things, but I'm specifically talking about what is happening with the air traffic controllers, with the delays in Newark. What is truth? What is fiction? And what should you know about it? Not just in traveling to Newark, but is this about to impact all air travel as we're coming up soon on holiday travel for Memorial Day weekend? Some people take that long weekend to travel with family. Also for summer travels, all of your vacation plans, do you need to start reevaluating them? We're going to go into what is happening and what you need to know and what you can do about it. Also, how it got this way. So, a little fun stuff with that. We're also going to talk about some election results. We have a number of positive stories coming out of different elections. Last week, we talked extensively about Canada, and we were really on pins and needles waiting to see what would happen. And Canada really did America proud, really standing up to the bullies, standing up for themselves, refusing to be declared as a 51st state. Well, now there's more election results that we should discuss, some really positive updates there, and a live election that we are keeping an eye on right now. Not the biggest election on its surface, but trust me, you're going to want to know from a soap opera human interest story what happens with this one. So we're going to get into that for tonight as well. If we have time, I know it sounds weird, but I think we got to talk about this Alcatraz story. Bear with me as to why, but there's so much weird, so much drama, so much serious stuff that's happening right now. But at the same time, I feel like this one bears some discussion and we'll explain why. And our final story, maybe a Chrysler Tunity, we'll see, which is, are the Democrats in a position to be able to try to capitalize on what's going on and win some elections? We have some new data to share with you, and we're going to talk about what is happening with the Democratic Party and a big reveal. We try to give a heads up and extra special content to our Political Fixer Live audience. We're going to be announcing some stuff next week, but at the end of this show, we've got a pretty major announcement, something that we've been hinting at for weeks, that's been in the works for months. And I hope that you're going to be super excited about it. And the reason I say that is because, we're going to need your help. We've got a lot of homework to do, and this is definitely a group project. So we're excited to be sharing that with all of you. All right, let me get a handle on all of this great content that we've got to share. First of all, good evening to all of our Political Fixer Live family. I'm so happy that for those of you able to join us. I want to thank our Political Fixer team. We have a lot of people that are going to be hopping on and off tonight. We, of course, have our amazing Chief of Staff, Sarah. She's here, as you all know, to keep everything going. She's our air traffic controller. We've got Jay Robot and Eddie producing the show this evening. We also have Heidi, who right now is at a conference. She's going to be hopping in and out. Heidi Torres, formerly from Univision. She has officially joined the National Political Fixer team. And then we also have Candace and Brittany, our National Outreach Team coordinators. They're going to be hopping on and hopping into the comments in the chat. So as you see some of our Political Fixer family members like Marlene and Stephanie and so many others that we look forward to seeing. As I see Kelly Frazier is on YouTube, keeping that conversation going. I see Amanda. Good evening to you, Amanda. So for those of you that are on the different platforms, jump into the comments. We're going to keep this conversation moving. All right. Let's dive into what's happening in Newark. Now, I saw that some of you are already ahead of me on this story as far as the blame game has started. Anytime something's going wrong, the blame game happens. That's normal in politics, but doubly so for this administration. For those of you that might not be familiar with the story, let me give you the 30,000-foot view, so to speak. There are a record number of delays. What they're calling, the FAA is calling an extreme amount of flight delays that are starting to emerge from the Newark airport, including cancellations. Just this week alone, we are looking at over 800 flight cancellations just out of the Newark airport. There was also a leak of an air traffic controller who left the job site saying, quote, "It is not safe to fly out of Newark." Why did this happen? What is going on with the air traffic controllers and what is being done about it? Okay. So apparently there was an issue on April 28th, so last week, where equipment malfunctioned. And according to multiple air traffic controllers that were in the tower, they say that they lost all contact with pretty much every flight for up to 90 seconds. Screens went blank, communications started to go out, and essentially these pilots were flying blind. Now, I do understand that they have radars and equipment and all this. These things are moving quickly. It is an extremely stressful job under the best of circumstances to be an air traffic controller. So to lose contact for 90 seconds was not only scary for everyone involved, but they literally called it traumatizing. In fact, a number of controllers filed the medical paperwork to get examined for trauma after that occurred. Now, that event in and of itself was considered to be traumatizing, but this has been an ongoing issue of stress with our air traffic controllers. Why? There's a few things. First of all, on its surface, very difficult job. How difficult? There is a mandatory retirement age. A mandatory retirement age, I want to say it's 56. Yes, forced retirement of age of 56 because of the stress induced in this job. And there is a shortfall of the different air traffic controllers. There have been delays in training and hirings for a number of different reasons. As you can imagine, during the height of the pandemic and the quarantines, those delays in training, which takes several months, they were exacerbated. And so the delays continued, so that now the shortage of air traffic controllers is the worst it has been in 30 years. About 70% of all airports say they do not have enough air traffic controllers. And the ones that are there, then you all have probably been in this position before with other jobs, right? If somebody quits or if somebody doesn't show up for their shift, what happens? That means you have to work more. And that's what's been happening with these air traffic controllers. Many of them going 6 and 7 days a week, 10 hours a day for years. This has been going on for years. Okay, so this has been a problem. What put us here? How did we get to this point? Part of this was already discussed, and there was a plan in place by the FAA. The Federal Aviation Authority had a plan in place. And their director, the administrator at the time, was Mike Whitaker. Think back what feels like a million years ago when Elon Musk and Doge first started axing things and saying they were looking for efficiency and randomly firing people. At least to us, it seemed random. There were over 400 staffers, including this administrator that had the plan they were implementing to hire more air traffic controllers. Over 400 people were laid off at the FAA, just like that. It was one of the first departments that they did the major layoffs, right? So I myself was like, well, that's weird. Out of every department to go after, when you think of big budgets, why the FAA? Turns out there's a reason for that. Mike Whitaker was the head of the FAA. He was appointed in 2023. Can anyone think of who was the president in 2023? Even under the contentious times of having the Biden administration and Congress at each other like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, Mike Whitaker was approved unanimously by the Senate, And he was considered to be good at his job. He was working across the aisle to get the funding and the programs they needed to get more air traffic controllers, but there was a problem. Mike Whitaker also was in charge of the FAA, the same FAA, that fined SpaceX $600,000 for their regulatory violations. What kind of things can you do that cause the FAA to not tell the FAA when they were about to launch rockets? They were failing to comply, allegedly, with licensing safety standards, and they were using unapproved rocket propellant, rocket fuel that they were not supposed to have, that they were not approved to use. So they were under investigation for the FAA. The investigation concluded, and they were fined over $600,000. Mike Whitaker was fired by DOGE. Again, one of the first people that was fired by DOGE, 400 additional people fired under the FAA. And while they were not air traffic controllers, they were in part support staff for other positions, like the people that provide updated radar maps and weather information and all these chart plans, all these teams that support the air traffic controllers. They're fired because of a petty grudge. Don't worry. If you're worried about this getting to be a problem and being unsafe, our real world contestant, Duffy, is on it. That's right. Our Secretary of the Treasury is saying that he's got it all figured out. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on Thursday of this week, so get ready. Thursday of this week, he's going to unveil his new plan. It is a multi-billion, with a B, billion-dollar system that is going to completely revolutionize air traffic controlling. And he's going to single-handedly fix the cracks in the system. And he assures us that this plan is going to sail through Congress, that it's going to fix everything, including overhauling their tech systems. Maybe. I hope so. I want it to work out. He's talking about possibly increasing and fast tracking some hiring. Some of the things they've discussed is raising the retirement age, trying to get retired air traffic controllers to come back for a little while. Good luck with that endeavor. Here's what I'll be looking for in the Thursday announcement. And then I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you all think about what's going on. I'm going to be looking for this overhaul in the system. Who are they using for their new system? What is the new system made of? What are its guts? Because in March, a story that got buried was that one of the things that Elon Musk was doing while in the system was quietly replacing, to test and demo, some of the existing air traffic control systems and radars with Starlink equipment, and supposedly assigning himself a $2.4 billion contract to be the vendor to overhaul the air traffic control system. How safe will you feel if Elon Musk and the guy from the real world are in charge of our skies? That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the reality of a staffing shortage that has long been in the making, that has a number of factors attributed to it. The fact that it's a stressful position, the fact that it takes years to train, and there's been interruptions and government shutdowns and COVID shutdowns and all kinds of things. The fact that people don't really want this job a lot of the times because of the stress. The fact that you can't take this job after a certain age. I think the age is 31 because of the rigor involved. You have to retire by the age of 56. And on top of that, you're watching people in your department, whether it's you personally or not, getting completely fired out of left field after years on the job doing nothing wrong. What are you watching for on Thursday? Do you think that this is going to get better? Do you think it's going to get worse? Do you feel safe traveling in the skies right now? I will tell you, I have an upcoming trip up to the Northeast. We're not flying into Newark. We're not. And it's nothing against Newark. I got to say, to be fair to Newark, it's unfortunate because that community and that state have worked really hard to revitalize that airport, to renovate different parts of it. It's actually, in parts of it are super nice right now, but they themselves are saying it's not safe. United Airlines has permanently canceled at least 35 legs that usually go out of Newark. So Newark is, even if it's safe, it's a nightmare. People have been having their flights delayed for days and days and days, right? Danette says she thinks it's going to get worse. We have Chocolate Sunshine hopping over. Okay, we're saying people are saying that Twitter might be glitching for some of you. I guess we're in for one of those fun tech gremlin nights. If that's the case, feel free to hop over to YouTube at Political Fixer and join in the conversation here. CJ Murphy says it's all been about data grabs, getting rid of regulators, and enriching himself. So yes, they're blaming the Biden administration. What else is new? But the reality is, this is a problem that they've been working on trying to fix for years and years. It was starting to get better. The guy that was starting to make it better was fired. And now we're looking at a situation where we're waiting for Thursday's announcement to know what is the plan. Karen Shaw says, as a federal worker who works at an airport, I can say it's going to get worse and maybe fatal. Oh, Karen, we do not like to hear that, but thank you for sharing that information with us. I mean, we're going to wait and see. As of now, air traffic safety is still among one of the safest, most reasonable, and most convenient transportation modes in the world. For now, it still is. Can we maintain that? Can we grow and evolve? Right? Catherine says this is so frustrating. Completely agree. This is so Danette says, what happened to Verizon? Did they fold or are they going to fight in litigation? So Verizon was the holder of the contract for this FAA software. And then Elon Musk said, nope, we've got it from here. We've got a number of things that we're looking for. We're looking to see, does Sean Duffy's plan include Starlink or Verizon or another vendor? We're waiting to see. There's a Democratic-led investigation into whether there was a conflict of ethics. I know it seems cute right now, but I'm glad they're at least trying to hold him accountable. As far as what Musk did by assigning himself that contract, were steps violated, were laws broken. And then, yes, Verizon is pursuing legal action, as you would expect. They're not just going to roll over and give up a several $billion contract. So we're waiting to see how all of this bickering plays out and how it impacts all of us. One quick thing before we move on this story. I just thought it was important because it touches everything. And everybody always says, we all meet people that say, yeah, but how does anything impact me? Like, I don't follow politics. It doesn't really impact me. Yes, it does. We just don't realize it sometimes until it breaks. Okay. There's a lot of things we're about to all realize. Oh, the government did that? Yeah, we're all about to feel that very painfully in different ways. But let me go down just a little bit to the household level. Let's say that you are traveling. One of the final things that Secretary Pete Buttigieg did and was able to pass through before leaving his role as the transportation secretary was to pass a pretty strict set of regulations regarding when we as travelers are owed a voucher or a refund if we have cancellations. As of now, that has not yet been reversed to my knowledge. So right now, according to, and I got this from the North Jersey, the Bergen paper, they were looking at what happens if your flight is among one that gets canceled because of all of this chaos that's happening, whether it's in Newark or somewhere else. So right now, you can still get vouchers, and also you can have your trips rescheduled with waiving fees and in some cases refunds if things are canceled on you right now. So if you have family members that are caught up in all of this, then right now, most of the airlines are required to give them refunds, reschedule things at no additional cost, that kind of thing. Now, I'll say no additional fees, right? Looking to see here. So Department of Transportation, if you Google Department of Transportation and airline passenger refund rule. I'm going to say that again because it's a super long link. It was not easy to find. Department of Transportation, airline passenger refund rule. You can also ask your airline, just demand a refund because they have to give it to you. And if you have trouble, then go to the Department of Transportation. So we're in this ride together. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see if the FAA is able to get its act together, upgrade its systems, hire more air traffic controllers. But here's what I'll say. Let's say that they have come up with a brilliant plan. Let's say that they are doing things that are going to make this system better over the next several years. It takes months and months to train a new air traffic controller, months and months. So even if everything starts to get better tomorrow, this holiday season, summer season of travel, I would still expect it to get bumpy. So just consider that as you're making your plans with your family for business travel or whatever your needs are. Just please keep that in mind. All right. So we have a lot more to cover. Welcome to those of you just joining us on Political Fixer Live. I am your host, Shauna Pressley Vircher. But as many of you know who join us week after week, it is not just me. We have an entire Political Fixer team that tries to bring you information and coverage and real just action steps and understanding about what's happening rather than just inflammatory, alarmist headlines, right? We try to sit down, dissect, see what's actually happening, slow it down a bit and explain it, go into the truth and how it impacts you. And whenever possible, what can we do about it, right? Okay. Thank you, Catherine, for shouting out the team. Oh, interesting. Kelly Fraser says that Jen Psaki is interviewing Pete Buttigieg. I'm sure he has a lot to say right now. I'm sure he has a lot to say. Kelly Fraser also says, I have flown over 1 million miles on Delta and I will not get on a plane right now. It's one of those things you got to do what feels right for you, not trying to be alarmist, but we are in unprecedented, surreal times. And so we're going to be continuing to follow this story and see how things go. I don't think everything's going to start crashing all at once, but it is worrisome that we have equipment blackouts and shortages of staff already that we're aware of, especially after the plane crash that happened in Washington, D.C. not too long ago. Okay, let's turn to some positive news. Some positive news. We are going to cover a couple of elections right now. Actually, let me refresh and get one of our results I'm keeping an eye on for fun. Okay, so this is all over the board, but it's all super fun, super positive stuff, which is unusual in politics. I'm always excited when I can bring you positive news. We reported on this show a few weeks ago that in North Carolina, one of the candidates for one of the Supreme Court seats was trying to nullify over 60,000 votes that had been cast, and that many of those votes were servicemen and women or their family members who had voted overseas, that there was no fraud that had been detected, that they had delivered their ballots as they should have, but he was trying to place new rules, new tricks, and basically obstacles to prevent his opponent's race from being certified. So we've been following this case, and I want to give credit to the North Carolina Democratic Party because they stayed on top of this. They raised the money to fight these battles in courts. They worked hard to cure whatever ballots they could. And I will tell you really great news. As of yesterday, a final ruling from a federal judge says that the North Carolina State Board of Elections must certify Allison Riggs as the winner of the 2024 election for her seat in North Carolina Supreme Court. So this is a win for people who have been following voting rights, who have watched this guy try to rig this election now for months, and really excited that she was able to dig in and fight. Here's her quote. This is the judge's quote. You establish the rules before the game. You don't change them after the game is done. Also, want to get our Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs here. Today we won, Riggs said. I'm proud to continue upholding the Constitution and the rule of law as North Carolina's Supreme Court Justice. So, North Carolina could have gone either way. It's a very purple state. People don't realize the nuances of North Carolina politics. It is not purely red or blue, no matter who's in charge in the governor's mansion or the state legislative. They have had literal ties in recent history with their state legislative elections. There is a situation where North Carolina cannot afford to have situations where their votes are suppressed or voters feel like they don't matter. The races are extremely close there. And I believe our votes always matter, but I've been following that one really closely. I know some of you have as well. So congratulations to Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs for sticking with it, fighting this guy with everything she had, with class and dignity, and coming out on top. I really appreciate this. Um, okay, so let's keep going with some other fun election stuff. We talked last week about Canada, and we were following that election pretty closely. I did a TikTok video or two about it. We talked about it on the live, and we were really following this because of 47 essentially threatening them, saying he was going to make Canada the 51st state. We watched that race completely turn from the Conservatives leading by double digits to the Liberal Party completely surging to the top, and at the last minute pulling out a victory. The new official full-term prime minister, though he had been seated for a little while as Justin Trudeau left, the full-time official prime minister for the Liberal Party is Mark Carney. And Mark Carney had his first meeting in the White House today since all of this election hullabaloo took place. And I got to just tell you a couple of things that happened for this. First of all, you would think that, this dude could just behave for like 10 minutes, but of course he couldn't. So 47, of course, brings up again making Canada the 51st state. And the reason I say that I'm surprised by this is not because he has self-control or that he has any kind of class, but usually he's kind of like a coward, like most bullies are. I'm a little surprised that he said anything with Mark Carney actually sitting there. I'm a little bit surprised that he did that. Anyway, so he mentions this with Mark Carney, Prime Minister Carney sitting right there. And Carney, to his credit, said, "It's not for sale," meaning Canada. "It won't be for sale ever. The opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together." Very classy statement. It then came out that Carney had privately asked 47, "Stop calling us your 51st state." And the press asked him about this. They asked the Canadian Prime Minister, like, is 47 going to stop saying that? And he basically said he's his own person, meaning who can say. He asked him behind closed doors, trying to be classy, would you just stop saying this, man? And of course, the guy can't control himself. Now, the real reason they were gathered there was not because of the 51st state nonsense, though that is extremely insulting, and Canadians responded accordingly. But the reason they were there was because of this trade war. Carney is trying to get him to remove these 25% tariffs. And as an indicator as to how this meeting was likely going to go, then right before Carney got there, 47 continued to insult Canada on social media hours before the meeting, saying that the United States doesn't need anything from Canada. Went on to say, "We don't need anything that they have to offer. We don't care." And he went on to say he wasn't quite sure why Carney was visiting. Really? You don't know why he's there? Maybe you completely hijacking the global economy could be something that we're there to talk about. So they asked point blank with Carney sitting there. 47 says, "I'm not sure what he wants to see me about. I guess he wants to make a deal." Here's the problem. Really hard to make a deal with someone who doesn't know what they want. They just like the attention. They just want to say stuff because they can. They like the power of just saying something and it comes true. 47 was asked, is there anything that Carney could say to him to lift his tariffs on Canada? 47 said, "No, it's just the way it is." I'm going to repeat that for you. He says, "No, it's just the way it is." Had no plans on dealing, no plans on fixing this whatsoever. Um, Mark Carney did a really good job and held his own. Just to keep an eye on some Canadian stuff. I'm now, just to let you know, I'm low-key hooked on Canadian politics. There's so much going on. And if you want to follow, it's not going to be smooth sailing for the new prime minister. There's already some drama we're going to be keeping an eye on. They have their own Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is the Alberta premier, which is kind of like their governor in a way. Her name is Danielle Smith, and she is an anti-vaxxer. She's anti-climate change. She's constantly citing conspiracy theories. Like, this woman is like a Marjorie Taylor Greene for Canada, Danielle Smith. She's also been caught up in a number of scandals. Just last week, she was caught spending $280,000 on carpet for her office. Okay. Why am I bringing this woman up? Because she's unhappy that their party lost. And so she has threatened essentially for Alberta to secede, what they call a separatist movement. And she has said that when Parliament gets back into session, that she is going to file something to separate Alberta from the rest of Canada. And this is like having a Texas of Canada. And I say that as a Texan, right? Really red right now. Let me look at the data here. The Alberta got 34 conservative seats to 2 liberal ones, just to show you how we would say red in Canada, it's actually blue, but how conservative Alberta is. Here's the issue that's going to get a little dicey for them, however, which is that Alberta also controls 97% of their oil reserves in all of Canada. So we're going to watch that soap opera play itself out. Mark Carney, I know, can hold his own. I've been impressed with him, but keep an eye on Danielle Smith and the craziness that Canada is going through. Lots of things to keep in mind. All right. Couple of more things we're going to talk about with elections before we move on to our next story. Amanda says Alberta is crown land. They don't have a leg to stand on. Amanda, I'm learning so much about this. In fact, some of the Indigenous tribe leaders are saying that Alberta can't even hold a vote on this without their approval. So I'm really fascinated with how all of the diverse history of Canada plays into their politics so openly. Whereas most of the time we talk about our history and our Indigenous tribes and everything is like an afterthought. It's really interesting to see that Canada, it's part of the everyday conversation. Okay, Square Foot Gardening is saying, speaking of Texas, born at Highland, I was Galveston County. I'm Lamarck girl. They did a good job in the polls. Definitely share more information, Square Foot Gardening. There's a fun race that we're going to talk about that we're keeping an eye on in just a second. Let me give you one other bit of good news on the election front, which is we talked a lot about Canada, but let's give our props to Australia, our friends down under. They also completely coincidentally had their elections this past weekend, this past Saturday. Australian elections are also fascinating to me, but the boiled down version of it, if you haven't been following it, which is totally understandable, but here's why you might find it interesting. They had a similar situation in Canada that Canada did, which is that things were looking like their more conservative party was going to win outright, or at least win a coalition to be the majority government. In fact, they called the guy that was their leader Doji Dutton. Like, he proudly aligned himself with 47 and with MAGA, and they called him Doji Dutton. Well, not only did Australia shock the world, they're saying it was one of the most decisive looking victories of the year out of any country. They won by a landslide. They said that they were predicting at most, I think, 90 seats. Instead, it looks like they're going to get 150 seats in the House of Representatives for their more liberal Labour Party. And just like in Canada, Dutton, the leader of the conservative side of things, not only did he not win, he lost his parliament seat. So any of you that were here last week and were saying, like, not only did Canada win, but Pierre Poilievre, the guy who was their conservative leader, he didn't even win his seat back in parliament. Same thing happened in Australia. So as my husband likes to say, America is officially the cautionary tale, but I still celebrate the wins of our allies. I'm jealous. I'm jealous that you all have looked at us and you're just like, oh, we've got that little head tilt anytime you talk about America, don't you? Australia, Canada, UK, you just look at us and you go, oh, bless your hearts. So yeah, but good job, Australia. Good job to Canada as they continue to shut down nonsense. And now I've got a fun, it's a small thing, but I think you guys might get a kick out of it. Not a lot of elections happening right here in the United States, but I had to bring you this one. How many of you know that Cincinnati is holding its mayor's race tonight. Oh, Kay Bruno says Germany too. Great point. Germany also did a great job in their elections, and rejected the extremist party, the AFD. I think it's the AFD party. So CJ Murphy says they saw what's going on here and said, hell no. Chocolate Sunshine said, I haven't figured out Canadian politics. It's very interesting. Yes, I'm a huge fan. I'm going to become addicted to it. I'm telling you. Okay. So, Cincinnati mayor's race. Why is this interesting? Well, it's not just because we follow the Cincinnati's mayor's race for sentimental reasons from the late, great, always entertaining former mayor of Cincinnati, Jerry Springer. That is not not the only reason to follow the Cincinnati mayor's race, but there is a race right now for who the top two seats will be. There are three primary candidates, and the top two finishers will then go on to the runoff election. And one of the people running is Aftab Puraval. Forgive me if I misspoke there. He is the Democrat. You have Brian Patrick Frank, who is a Republican, though again, it doesn't really matter. It's the top two finishers overall, regardless of party. And then you have Corey Bowman. And you might not know that name because his brother, J.D. Bowman, changed his name to J.D. Vance. But he was born J.D. Bowman. And his brother, Corey, is currently running for mayor in Cincinnati. So we are figuring out what's going to happen with this Cincinnati mayor's race. The precincts are still coming in, and we'll give you an update on that. But as of now, Corey Bowman is in second place and could make it to the runoff out of the three candidates, but it is a widespread. Only 20% of the precincts reporting as of now. Right now, he's getting shellacked 81% to 13%. But the other guy's got 5. So J.D. Vance endorsed his half-brother Corey for this race. And this has been something that's been interesting to watch. So by his own, let me give you a little bit of this, because I think this guy is likely going to lose this race. So we're going to keep an eye on it, and having national attention might help him, because keep in mind, this is just the first step. And by the time we get to the final election, he might have some wind under his sails there. But by his own account, I think he is looking to get in the public eye. He is a local evangelical pastor who also owns a coffee shop. I want to find where he went to school, because I remember stopping for a second and taking pause when I read it. So bear with me 1 second as I flip through here. He says that he decided to run for office on the plane riding back from his brother's inauguration. Here we go. He went to Miami University of Ohio, Bowman did. Then he moved to Tampa, and he attended a college called River University. I live in Tampa. I have lived in Tampa now for over 20 years. I've lived in Tampa Bay. I have never heard of River University. Why is that? Because in 28 years, they have graduated a total of 5,000 students. And their mission, according to their website, is to train men and women in the spirit of revival for ministry in the 21st century. They encourage people to speak in the prayer language of the Holy Ghost, including speaking in tongues. And he has a small church of about 50 congregants every Sunday. So this guy is running for mayor. What does he think about anything? This is Politico's quote about J.D. Vance's brother, who's running for Cincinnati mayor right now. His answers are often vague and unsatisfying. Like there you go. They are brothers, aren't they? The other thing is they had a debate. They had a candidate debate on last Tuesday night. And on J.D. Vance's brother said he was going to be there, and instead there was just an empty chair with a microphone. Didn't even bother to show up to the debate. Right? Cynthia Fontaine says that the last thing we need is another Vance. This is so true. so true. I think that he's gotten a taste of the attention that his brother got. and that this is not going to be this is the first of many things. Marlene wants to know, does he use the same eyeliner? I didn't see that close up of a photo, but he does have his beard now exactly like him. It's very odd, the whole thing. So right now, we'll keep an eye on this for you. We're watching these results, but right now, if you're just joining us, JD Vance's brother is running for mayor of Cincinnati. Oh, I gotta find this quote. Hold on one second. I gotta find this, guys. Trust me, it's worth it. I read so much information about this dude today. I went down a rabbit hole. Oh, here we go. Here, if you want to know, sorry, if you want to know what to think about this guy Bowman, who is JD Vance's brother, because JD Vance changed his name, even though I thought we're not allowed to do that and still vote, but that's okay. And JD Vance changed his name. He was originally named Bowman. His slogan for his campaign of the mayor of Cincinnati is "Flip the Natty." Flip the Natty. I mean, 10-1, this dude does CrossFit. I mean, you just got to think he's just the best, most fun guy to be around, right? Like, not at all obnoxious or pretentious. So we're following this race of JD Vance's brother, who has decided, since, according to him, on the plane back from the inauguration, that he had a calling for politics. We're watching him currently get shellacked in the Cincinnati mayor's race. Though there's a runoff, so he might have a second crack at it. So we don't know. Right now, he is his opponent, the lead opponent, the Democrat, has 6,000, almost 500 votes, and he has around 1,000 votes. It's 81% to 13%. Chocolate Sunshine wants to know, why did Vance change his name? Family reasons or stage name? Combination of both. So from what I understand, he was originally born Bowman. Then his mother divorced the father, or something happened where that relationship ended. And so then he temporarily took on the name of a new man figure that was in his life. I don't know if it was a husband or not, but they went as far as changing the birth certificate, doing the adoption process. Then that guy is no longer in his life. Do not know the details. And so he was getting ready to sign his publishing deal for Hillbilly. Is it Hillbilly Elegy, Effigy? I don't remember. I tried to watch the movie, but he was so mean. The character was so mean to his mom. I turned it off after like 10 minutes. But and this was before I knew who he was. But anyway, so he decided, before his publishing deal came out, that he wanted to change his name. And from what I understand, it is a family name of his maternal grandmother. None of this should be in my head. If I had, is there any Jeopardy category where this would be useful information? Because honestly, why do I know these things? So yes, technically, from what we understand, a family name, but changed for stage name reasons. So, and you know what? Change your name. If life calls you in a different direction, change your identity. And look, I'm not going to harass you. I'm not going to hold your passport hostage. I'm not going to ask you for ID before you do basic life things. I'm going to treat your name with respect. Look how easy that is, JD Vance. Look how easy. It's almost like we don't need to harass people for changing their name, their identity, or their right. We don't need to do that. And yet here we are. Okay. So we've got a couple of great fun stories that are going to end up positive. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to take you for our kind of multifaceted final story of tonight's show. And I definitely want you to weigh in on this stuff. We're going to go through what's happening. I'm going to use a small glimmer of some of the chaos of this week's news cycle to illustrate a point. I'm going to first show you the downside, but then we have a positive thing, I hope, that we're going to unveil to all of you. And I really, really like your feedback. For those of you that are, I'm really enjoying watching some of this chatter back and forth against JD Vance. Super fun. So for those of you that are just joining us, you're on Political Fixer Live. Definitely feel free to jump into the comments, ask further questions, throw your perspective in of any of the stories that we're talking about, and our Political Fixer team and also our Political Fixer family members will be happy to jump in and be a part of that conversation with you as well. Okay, it's going to feel weird for me to say that this story is important, but bear with me. Alcatraz. Okay, I don't usually like following the little bouncing ball of the circus. but bear with me here. Earlier this week, there was a Truth Social post that 47 said, rebuild and open Alcatraz. For too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, repeat criminal offenders, blah, blah, blah. When we were a more serious nation, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. Very random, very random post about Alcatraz. And the press followed up with questions on this. And he doubled down. Yes, we have people looking into it. We're going to reopen Alcatraz, right? He's said things like this over and over, but this is the first time that Alcatraz has ever been mentioned. And it came out of left field. But did it? He was asked in a press release. In a press conference, he was asked, I'm going to read you the transcript. The journalist said, how did you decide to reopen Alcatraz? Can you walk us through that decision? And this is a quote, the exact quote. I just trimmed out some of the nonsense in the middle, the ums and the backs and all that. But he says, well, I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We started with the movie making. It represents something very strong, very powerful. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate. It housed the most violent criminals in the world. Nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but you know the story. They found his clothing rather badly ripped up. A lot of shark bites, a lot of problems. Nobody has ever escaped from Alcatraz. That's a weird way to lead off that sentence, right? That whole thing. I was meant to be in the movie business. That's so odd. Kelly says it sounds like he was glitching. I thought the same thing. We checked the president's schedule, and on Saturday, May 3rd, the day before, he had tweeted this out. He was in Mar-a-Lago. He left the Mar-a-Lago briefly to go to his West Palm Beach golf club and then came back to Mar-a-Lago. That was the extent of his day. Yay, taxpayer dollars. Anyway, all day, Mar-a-Lago. You're never going to guess what movie was playing on PBS for Saturday night cinema. Saturday night, Palm Beach PBS. Palm Beach PBS, Return to Alcatraz. I verified it myself. Return to Alcatraz, based loosely on a 1962 attempt of people escaping a Clint Eastwood. The dude watched a movie from his golf course or his resort or whatever, said, this looks amazing, and then decided to make it federal policy. Emerald Bloom says, why was he watching PBS? Scooby's Wildlife says the same thing. Yes, it's because we killed irony a long time ago. It's dead. The fact that he wants to defund PBS and is watching PBS, yeah, we killed irony so long ago in this administration, so long ago. That's why it's dead. It's done. They have zero self-awareness where that is concerned. Here's why I bring it up. There are only three explanations here. There are only three explanations for this, where you watch a movie, a Clint Eastwood movie about Alcatraz, and then you make it federal policy, right? Okay. Number one, he actually thinks this is a good idea. Okay. He sees something, it's shiny. He's like, yeah, we should do that. And if that's the case, we have to have guardrails in place to stop him from terrible ideas. Only one way to do that, and that is to flip Congress, because his cabinet members are ridiculous. I don't know if any of you saw glimpses of that cabinet meeting where there is not a polite way to describe what they were doing to that man in their praise of him. If that's the case, we have to flip Congress, because having a Congress that will hold him in check is the only thing to keep him from completely going off the rails with these insane ideas that he genuinely thinks are good. That's option one. Option two, he is actually mentally deficient. That all of these experts that study his speech patterns and his posture and all of these different alleged health issues, that he is in mental decline. And if that is the case, then we have to have people that are willing to impeach him. And that means flipping Congress. There's a third option. The third option is He doesn't care about any of this. This is just a distraction. He is just saying this so we'll follow the shiny cloud of whatever he puts out there of mess to distract us from the multiple crimes that he's currently committing by ignoring the Supreme Court, subverting the Constitution, burning due process, accepting bribes and cryptocurrency in exchange for meetings, and dropping lawsuits and regulatory fines. He's just distracting us from his crimes, in which case he needs to be impeached and then tried and convicted of those crimes, in which case we need a new Congress and also a new Senate. We need to flip the Senate, we need to flip the Congress. All roads lead to the House. Now, before I proceed with what the next part of this is, because we're going somewhere with this, which one do you think it is? Do you think he's an idiot? Do you think he's in mental decline? Do you think he's just messing with us and this is an intentional distraction? What do you think? Right? Because honestly, I could sit here and debate any of them, right? I think I will refrain from telling you what I think. I will just say that my opinion of him has changed from this term to the last. That's what I'll say, right? People are saying, mental decline. People are saying they think it's devious and intentional. All of the above, one and two, all three, messing with us, right? Okay, so whatever his motives or intentions are, right? Whatever they are, we have to have a fresh Congress. Not one of these Republican Congress people have obstructed anything that he's done. They haven't. So that means, I don't know if any of you are Simpsons fans, but years ago, one of the Halloween special episodes, one of my favorite episodes of all time, was during the Clinton election, just to date me just a little bit, but it was making fun of the Bob Dole Bill Clinton election, and the election ended up being between the two alien creatures, Kling and Kodos. So anyway, as they say in that Simpsons episode, it's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of us. So the basis of that episode is you had to vote for one of the aliens. You were stuck. And I know for some of you, that's sometimes how you feel, right? I know that's sometimes how you feel, but this is where we live right now. We live here where there are two parties that have a viable option of holding on to Congress and maintain and getting a majority. And you have the Republicans that are letting him burn the Constitution in front of them. And then you've got the Democrats, who some are trying, again, bless their hearts, and a lot of them just rage inducing, right? Like just not up to the challenge of the moment of today. There are bigger problems with the Democratic Party. We have their fundraising numbers. We have their fundraising numbers for the first quarter. Not great. I guess the good news is that the Republican fundraising numbers were not great either. So we looked at the big three. So we looked at the National Committee, the DNC and the RNC. We looked at their Senate committees, and we looked at their congressional committees. Total, all of the Republican big three and the Democratic big three. Let me give you some numbers. On the Republican side, they raised a total of around $113 million in this last quarter. On the Democratic side, total, they raised about 96. So it's a difference of about $17 million. Republicans constantly outraised Democrats, especially during the off times of the election. That didn't worry me that much. On the Senate side, negligible, within a couple of $1 million of each other. On the congressional side, tied, right? I will say it's extremely distressing to me that, knowing how important it is to flip the Congress, that we're still tied with Republicans on fundraising right now. That means the Democrats are struggling. What worries me more than being, $15-16 million behind on the National Committee fundraising is what they spent. And in this last quarter, the Democratic National Committee spent more than it made. They are in the red. The Democratic Party is essentially out of money. All right. Not trying to be alarmist, but this is a problem. Okay. Just the National Committee, they received around $38 million. They spent $43.5 million. I went to the FEC website, the Federal Elections Commission. I pulled their reports. What did they spend it on? What did the Democrats spend their money on? Around $3.5 million they transferred to different state committees. Like different states had things that they needed. That is the business of the national committee. They should be doing that when they can, giving money to the state parties to help them grow, right? Kathy's pointing out that AOC and Bernie are rocking it. This is true. I hope they're also rocking it on fundraising. Okay, the Democratic National Committee also spent around $10.3 million. I was looking at what those expenditures were. They were old bills from the Kamala Harris race. We are still paying off our November debt. Not good. Not good. So we spent over $10 million on bills from that election, canvassing bills and mailer bills and all of these things, consultants, all of these things for that election. We're still paying it off. That is not good. And then $29 million. $29 million the DNC spent on operations and payroll, essentially to keep the lights on. Okay. I looked at the expenditures at a glance. I didn't go through all 4,000 things that they bought, but on the surface, they seem like reasonable things. These were reasonable salaries, it looked like, nothing too crazy. I don't think they're out there burning money, but here's what worries me. They spent in one quarter $29 million to keep the lights on. The total amount that they have in their bank account right now is less than $17 million. They don't have enough money right now to keep the lights on for the full next quarter, right? I mean, this is not good. Okay. Square Foot Gardening says we're tired of receiving tons of donation requests. We don't see them being forceful. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying and some of the stuff that you're politely thinking and not saying. How we got here, I think, for many of us is pretty apparent, right? I think the point of kind of talking it out as family is we're not the only ones feeling that way. Sometimes it can feel like we're the only ones who think this way and feel this way, especially some of us who have been here, as advocates for quite some time, that we're kind of screaming at the clouds saying, why aren't they doing a better job? Apparently, we're not the only ones that feel that way, that the money is not coming in. All right, there's another thing, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about it. All right, so bear with me for one second here. Okay. I got another email at the same time I was researching this story. I got an email from Ken Martin, who is the new chair of the Democratic National Committee. Now, to be fair, Ken started very recently. I think they are trying to do a better job. I don't know what that plan looks like. I am wishing them success, but it takes time. And this is a giant machine. And I don't know how fast they're going to be able to turn it on, to make it lucrative again. I don't know. But here was what the email said. I opened it. Normally, I don't open these emails because I'm like you guys, like Square Foot Gardening. Like, I'm tired of getting the donation emails. But the header of this was, we're doing something unlike anything Democrats have ever done in modern times. All right, fine. You got me. So I opened it. Now, here's the punchline. They are saying that they are announcing a historic agreement to send $1 million every month into the Democratic state parties. That's great. I do think we should invest more in the state parties. Love that idea. Keep reading. And that Republican-controlled states will receive an additional investment of $5,000 a month. Every party will receive $5,000 a month more than what they were getting. Okay, wait, roll all of that back. So you're pledging all of this money, but out of all of that money, they were already getting $17,500 a month. I learned that as I read through the whole email a few different times. So you're really giving them $5,000 a month, unless they're in a red state, in which case they get another $5,000 a month. For the state, I'm in Florida. There are 67 counties. I did the math, okay? Would you like to know how much money that means per county? $74.63. I did the math twice. Little calculator. $74.63. We've got it licked. The intention is good. I appreciate they're trying some. What are we going to do with $74.63? Texas. I was just in Texas speaking to a number of you at a Democratic Women's Convention. There's over 200 counties in Texas. What are y'all going to do with $5,000? I like the idea. Okay. So some of this, as you are saying, Marlene just says good grief. Like your Charlie Brown sentiment, Marlene. I share it, right? um, we've seen this coming for a while. And many of you have been on Political Fixer Live with me for weeks and weeks. Some of you since before the election. We have been doing some of this stuff together. We have tried to organize together. We grieved together. Then we're working on other projects together. We are still working on things like Equal Rights Now, our quest to get women in the Constitution. We are working, reaching into some of your communities and offering more trainings. We're going to expand a lot of that work. But when we saw what was happening, then we had our own family meeting and we decided to do something about it. And so I am pre-announcing to all of you before we announce it next week to the world that we have spent the last few months dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's. And we have launched our own super PAC, the Political Fixer PAC. Political Fixer PAC. You can go right now to politicalfixerpac.org. What are we going to do? A few things. Number one, we are going to try to engage low information, persuadable voters. We are going to try to get their attention, bite-sized information at a time, and try to start conversation with them. And if we can't do that, at least let them know what's going on. All right. That's point one. Engage, get people's attention and get them talking about things. There is a persuadable middle here. We need to go after them. The second thing is we're going to work on educating. Now, some of this is educating the voters about what's going on and giving them more detailed information. Oh, you're interested in what's happening in Newark? Let me give you the backstory about what's going on. Here's a podcast episode about it. Here's a course you can take to really understand it. Here's a 3-minute TikTok, really educating them. But some of it is about educating all of us that are doing things in our communities so you're not learning the hard way. We have a political fixer strategic plan that we're going to be rolling out across the country. We will train any of you who want training. And if you can't afford to have us come there, we'll do it by Zoom or we'll get it sponsored or the donors will pay for us to come and train your existing organizations. You're already doing the work. You just need help. Or maybe you don't have a group you belong to yet. Be a part of the political fixer group. Be a part, one of our advocates, and jump in on the issues that you care about and volunteer and help. And the third thing is we're going to empower you with as many of the tools and the talking points and the social graphics and again, the online courses, whatever we can get you, we will get you to run with what's important to you. And as we get closer, we are going to be tackling midterms together. We are look up whatever the primary date is in your state for next year. Look it up because we have that long to bitch, moan, and complain about the Democrats and try to find the best person that we think is there for the job on the Democratic side. But after that, we rally, we persevere, and we get those numbers up and we run up that score. We have to. It is our only play. So yes, we are going to work on primarying certain Dems, and we're going to need your help to identify them. We're going to need your help in deciding where do we air commercials and what's the best message in your market. We have the power of social media. We have thousands of all of you. The TikTok account alone has over 200,000 people. We can make a difference here. We're not going to wait and ask permission. All of us, how many of you asked, how can we get involved in the Florida congressional races? How many phone calls did we make? How many emails did we try to send that campaign? How much did we try to help? And the party was like, no, we've got it. We're not waiting for the party anymore. I hope they get their act together. I really do. And I support them in any way that I legally can, but we're not waiting for them. So, Political Fixer family, Political Fixer PAC. All right. WTF, it's JoJo, Connecticut. I would love to come to Connecticut. Okay. So here's what you can do. First of all, we're formally announcing this on Monday. So you're going to see more videos, press clippings, all these types of things. We would love your help in amplifying this stuff. If you want to volunteer, if you've already signed up to volunteer for anything that we've been working on, you're going to get a phone call or an email from us and ask you if you want to do this. If you don't, it's great. No pressure, but we'd love to have you. And then let us know if you want to do a training session. If you go to politicalfixer.com, you can message us, you can send us an email, you can reach out to Sarah at Political Fixer. She's our chief of staff, as so many of you know, and you could just email her directly. She is the best at getting back to people. So you could just email Sarah at politicalfixer.com, a real human that will really get back to you, that really wants to help. And Cynthia says, if you go to Connecticut, you have to come to Rhode Island. Sold. Sold. Absolutely. I think we need to just book a tour. Let's just do it. This is what I'm doing, right? Like many of you know, we gave up a lot of different business and things that we were doing with consulting and things to go all in on the Kamala Harris election. I don't regret that for a second. I can't imagine how terrible I would feel if I hadn't left it all on the stage for that election. I feel bad now because we didn't win. Of course, we all tried what we could, but I can't imagine how I would feel if I didn't leave it all on the stage. Well, I feel like the times call for this now. And our team, particularly, I got to give a shout out to Eddie and Sarah because they have just been here the whole time trying to figure out what our next steps are and how can we help. Yes, we are going to continue with the work we've committed to do with Equal Rights Now and with the content on Political Fixer. In fact, we're going to be growing that. We're staffing up. That's why we now have Heidi and Candace and Brittany. We got some other few friends you're going to get to meet. But I'm very excited. And I think that, this is a really great time that we can work together and make a big impact. I hope that you're excited as well. I see a lot of hearts. I see that we're up to over 46,000 likes, which is amazing. I also want to shout out Divine AF Girl and Professor Liberty Esquire and so many other people, Amanda and Chocolate. Well, we got hearts going like crazy on YouTube as well. I hope you're excited about this. This took a lot of work. You're going to see a lot more about this in the coming days and weeks and months, but this is supposed to be us leveraging our platform to amplify you and put tools in your hands. We took that call of do something to heart. And I think some of you know, I've been hinting that we've got a big do something coming around the corner. This is our big do something. And we need your voices, not just to help amplify what we're talking about doing and our ideas, but for us to listen to your ideas and help amplify you and your work and what you care about and what you're finding in your communities, in your conversations, in your spheres of influence. One of the problems I feel like we have with the Democratic Party is we look for this almighty creature that's just going to come in and save us, right? This person is just going to come in and they're going to be the leader of the party and they're going to fix everything and they're going to make all the problems go away. And as long as we vote on that one day, everything will be fine. And that's just not where we are anymore. We have had some great presidents, some of whom I've proudly worked for, many of whom I admire. I'm very proud of the Democratic Party and everything that we've accomplished collectively and historically. I am. But this is a new day and we need to get scrappy and we can't wait. So the good news is you don't have to choose. You can support the party. You can support the candidates directly. You can get involved locally. You can work for nonprofits in your area and you can still get in and help and fit in wherever you feel comfortable. So Square Foot Gardening says the book is awesome. Oh, I'm so happy that you're reading it. All right. Emerald Bloom says it's no longer business as usual. I could not agree more, Emeralds. We have for those of you that Chocolate said, I'm so excited to start thinking about midterms, though it does feel like a long time away. So long. Absolutely, it does, but it's going to be here before you know it. And you know what? The thing about bullies is they run away quickly. They really do. We just got to get organized. You guys are already doing so much of the work. For those of you that haven't gotten the book yet, A Fearless Voice, you can go to politicalfixer.com and we actually have hardback signed copies available to you. In fact, I'm sending out another shipment of them tomorrow with more signatures. Some of you have already ordered it, but the Fearless Voice book is a true insane story about how I became the political fixer. But more than that, I hope that it's a way to inspire you to stand up and get off the mat, even when you feel like you're down, and fight right now. If you would like to get a copy of A Fearless Voice, you can go to politicalfixer.com and you can order it from there. Or if don't let money be the reason you don't get this book. I want you to have it. So if you want, just send us a message in the contact us page and we'll send you a free electronic copy. Don't worry about it. I want you to have it. I am very excited to talk about it. And Square Foot Gardening, I am volunteering you to help us with a book club at some point. I can't wait to hear what you think about it when you get to the end. So, okay, we've covered a lot. We've talked about FAA travel. You guys are going to keep an eye on the skies. You're going to try not to book through Newark right now. And if you do, make sure you get those refundable tickets or the vouchers that you need if your flight gets canceled or delayed. And maybe consider what's going on with our shortage of air traffic controllers for your holiday travel plans, especially as summer is coming right up. We also talked about some positive election victories, not just in Australia, not just in Canada and in Germany, as one of you pointed out, but also here at home. Allison Riggs finally was victorious against the guy who was trying to steal her North Carolina State Supreme Court seat. And as we're following here, let me just refresh and see how we're doing. With 78% of precincts reporting, the the margin has spread. The leading Mr. Purval, the Democrat, has 83% of the vote, and JD Vance's brother has 12%. He has 2,380 votes. So we'll keep an eye and see if JD Vance's brother is going to help him build that Vance Bowman political dynasty, or if this is where his journey ends. We'll keep an eye on that one. We talked about the Alcatraz story and how we don't know what the motives are for what's coming out of the White House right now, but no matter what they are, it's up to us to organize and stop them. And so we all need to be working together and thinking how to first find and staff up the strongest candidates possible for Congress. I think we have an obligation to do that. I'm not one of these don't primary Dems people. I think we got to pick some and go after them. And I think we all know a few names on those lists. And we've got to be smart and think and plan together. And we've got to organize and train in the meantime. And then we have to be super focused on flipping Congress. It is the only way to put any guardrails against this chaos tornado. And so to do that, we have launched the Political Fixer PAC, which was built with all of you in mind. So I can't wait. So Dias says Texas mayoral and board elections. I saw that the turnout was really high in the Texas elections. I don't have any results for you as of now, nor do I know a lot of these candidates, but definitely I'll keep an eye on that story for my home state in Texas. And I think that next week's show is going to be a big one. So if you have a chance, mark your calendars for next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can get this show on YouTube after we're done at Political Fixer. But we're going to be talking a lot more about the PAC. There's a lot more headlines we're keeping an eye on. And then, of course, we want to continue to get information to all of you, but also from all of you. What's happening? What's going on? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? Square left a cool review on Amazon. I'll have to check that out. That's amazing. So I know that some of you are communicating with each other. Please continue to do that. And for those of you that want to reach out, go to politicalfixer.com, and we would love to go to your area or an area near you. And we're setting up a Political Fixer tour, and we're going to come in and do events. We're going to come in and do fundraising events and also training events and some of the mixers in the community to get people out and talking again. Our Cocktails for Kamala initiative was great. We want to do that times 1,000. It was to get people that don't normally talk about politics in some of these communities to come out and ask the questions and have the safe space conversations. So definitely excited about this. Catherine's already saying that the mixers would be great. So we're going to come up with tools and ways for you to be able to submit and get organized. Thank you for not only your encouragement. I've seen so many great comments this week, but also for your patience, because you knew something was coming and you were like, can we see? Can you tell? Do you have this? And you all have been amazing at being patient as we got all of our ducks in a row. So right now, everything is in pre-launch phase. It's working. You can reach us. You can get in touch with us. We can start the ball rolling. Look for a lot more to come. And again, I want to thank our Political Fixer team. I want to thank Sarah and Eddie and Jay Robot, but also Heidi and Candace and Brittany and some of our other Political Fixer team members that are going to be coming out and with their announcement of joining our team very, very soon. Okay, I see that a lot of you are exchanging messages. If you missed something, feel free to go to YouTube at Political Fixer channel, and make sure that you also feel free to go to politicalfixer.com. Mark your calendars for next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, and keep an eye on the TikTok account for more videos as we keep you updated on all of these developments. Make sure you reach out and share your developments as well. Really appreciate you all. Hope that you have an amazing week, that you take some of this positive fighter energy into this week, right? The rest of the world is rooting for us. It's time that we root for ourselves and we really take care of each other and practice some self-care. We can do this. We're at over 50,000 likes, over 54,000. That is amazing for a Tuesday evening where we had kind of a long show with a lot of ground to cover. I will see you all next Tuesday. Be safe and be kind to each other. All right, talk to you soon.